Who is Joseph Campbell and why should we care? Topic that comes up a lot.
Joseph Campbell was one of the leading mythology experts of all time.
Joseph Campbell is a philosopher, a man who had this ability to see the truth in a world where we've lost sight of that in many ways.
He studied all of these classical myth traditions, and he actually started by studying Native American mythology. He fell in love with it when he was a kid. This was his bliss. And he wound up studying the Aboriginal cultures. He studied Greek mythology. He studied Arthurian legend.
He dissected and really diagrammed all of our stories.
He compared the philosophies, the mythic stories of the whole world.
All myths, all movies, all novels, all romances.
And he find this one story within all the stories that we can relate to no matter where you come from.
He recognized that in spite of all the different stories we seem to be telling, there's really only one. And he called it the hero's journey.
There must have been thousands and thousands of hero stories from every culture, but until Joseph Campbell came along, certainly I never realized how they all kind of fit together and how they were basically the same story.
I was a religion major in college. I was taking my final exam, and I had a moment where I was just gobsmacked. It's just like, holy crap, it's all the same thing. I mean, it is really all the same thing.
The hero's journey is a pattern. You can almost think of it as an algorithm that has three basic parts: separation, initiation, and return. Separation. You are in one kind of a reality, in one kind of a place. You are separated from it. Initiation. You're put into another place where you are in some manner initiated. Return. You come back.
A simple version of the hero's journey is, someone starting out in their normal protected world and then getting a call to adventure.
The call to adventure.
There's a vision. There's a quest.
It's the story of the hero enduring some trials.
Various trials and ordeals.
Meeting different obstacles along the way. People that hurt you, people that help you.
Doors will open, as Campbell would say, for you where there are no doors for others. Dragons will appear that are your dragons alone.
You get to the innermost cave where you're really challenged, the greatest crisis, and you find your true self.
The achievement, the glory.
But then that's not the end of it. That is to bring that back to the community.
There's a return to tell the story.
That is a heroic journey.
Separation, initiation, return. All of the adventures of the human story are in there. All the heroes, all the villains, all the gods and goddesses, and all of the knights, and all of the fantastic creatures we can conjure up in animation, they're all in there, because they're all in here. Because they're all in here. This is where they come from.
If you look at some of the greatest pieces of literature, the greatest works of philosophy, they all have what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey.
And if you look with a piercing eye, you can recognize his outline in just about any movie or story you would read.
Star Wars, The Matrix, Harry Potter.
Wizard of Oz. That's a classic story of a hero's journey. You first see Dorothy in her natural environment. And just like out here in regular life, a person is operating in their natural environment every day and living in their house and that kind of thing. And then something happens to shake that world up. And you go on a journey in which you have to face certain tests and challenges.
Storytelling is typically about people learning something. You go to a place which is dark and mysterious. you are faced with yourself, there is a relationship between facing fear and this kind of soul gain. You acquire a quality, a hidden strength, a value. Moments where somebody is tested, somebody moves to a place where it feels like a crisis point, and then they are restored, redeemed, made better through that trial. And we call them heroes.
If all of these stories boil down into one map, we can use that map because all human beings are the same, whether they're going through a war like World War II or going through a war inside. It's basically the same kind of process.
In other words, we're not separate from the characters we see in our movies and in our novels. They are us. It's one journey.
The whole idea of hero's journey, a journey of life, clear patterns to guide you through. You're born, you have a childhood, you have adolescence, and you try to find a place for you to become an adult. And you go through adventures. You struggle with your inner conflicts. And finally, you become a hero. You slay the dragons. You succeed in conquering all the demons, and you step over thresholds. And finally, you have arrived. We get old, we die, but within this short span, we have to have some meaning, some reason for this existence. It doesn't have to be high and mighty and fantastic. You can have a very simple life, still go through the similar pattern.
We go out and we watch a great hero's journey movie. It's that impulse within us, that seed of potential that wants to be actualized, that's being talked to during those movies and being whispered to, it's time for you to do that. That's the story here. That's what it's all about.
There's wonderful narrative iconography for how to live life. The idea that try hard you get, the little engine that could, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I can. This idea that we really can do better, be better, that our greatest selves are still hidden, and that the future is the prospect of coming to terms with that self.
Dorothy had to confront her inner barriers. And so the journey she went on was not just a journey to find out how to deal with the Wicked Witch of the West. It was how to deal with her own inner resources, how to claim her own inner resources. And at the end of the movie, how did she get back home? Well, she clicked her heels together. So she had it all the time, the ability to get back home, but it didn't get mobilized for her until she went through all of those challenges and was able to kind of test herself.
It's kind of the ordinary moving into the extraordinary. It's going through the dark to come out to the light. Going from an unsatisfying life to a satisfying life by pushing through the scariest things you could imagine.
It's better to have a story to look through at life than an explanation. The reason for that is the story is richer.
If this path of the hero's journey is fairly simple in design, why then is it that everybody isn't living it? Well, the answer is that most people on the planet live under a kind of a mass hypnosis.
There's a tremendous pressure, even in the media, on really keeping people in their place, in the sense of keeping them happy, tranced out consumers. It's a trance of comfort. It's a trance of not sticking your head up above the crowd very much. That keeps the enterprise going.
Most people think it's a luxury and and a great privilege to stay home and look at their 800-inch television. If you just space out, you're not developing. We're stimulated by some images and some loud noise.
It's about collecting things and stuff and making a lot of money and doing a lot of things, and it's impossible to enjoy that because you end up on that treadmill and you can't get off.
That's the trance, that's the wasteland, where we're just guided toward this weird sense of what's real in our lives. And those ideas that are imposed on us from the outside about what we should and should not do.
If you look at every heroic journey, the hero has been confronted with the fact that the world that they thought was reality was nothing more than illusion. I go back to the Matrix, which is, what was the Matrix? It was just this big illusion. It was the dominant values and beliefs that the world had put around this guy, Neo, the seeker on the hero's journey. And what did he do? He felt this longing to go beyond the illusion, to go beyond the Matrix. So he took the red pill and he woke up to reality. And what was reality? Reality was he was full of potential.
Separation begins with what we call the call to adventure.
Campbell tells us there's literally almost a phone ringing. It's like the universe, the divine, God, whatever you want to call it, literally dialing you up and ringing and giving you a call, asking you to step out and to live your journey.
Something breaks into your quotidian reality and makes it impossible for you to continue. Well, you can hang up the phone, you can run away, but it'll keep coming back until you finally answer the call.
If you're not paying attention, the wake-up calls come in the form of a sledgehammer. You know, if you're paying attention, they might come in a tickle feather.
So we don't always get the call as a choir of angels with trumpets singing to us beautifully one sunny morning.
In Star Wars, Luke comes back, his house has been burnt down. He's got to go.
Oftentimes it comes in the depth of our despair, in losing a job, getting fired, getting divorced, having your house foreclosed on. These things that you just would never want to have happen are often the exact things we need to catapult us, to catalyze us into that next version of ourselves.
Bad things happen to good people, and when that happens to them, they typically are thrown for a loop because they frequently have felt everything's going along, I'm doing everything right. What happened? Well, you know, the universe just upended you, and it does do that.
Chinese symbol for crisis are two symbols. The first one is danger, and the second one immediately is opportunity. So crisis is both danger and opportunity.
Let me put this into really practical 100-pound terms, because if the camera had been pointed at me when I was 24 years old, what it would have seen was a person who weighed 320 pounds. You would have seen me puffing on 2 or 3 packs of Marlboros a day, a relationship that I didn't want to be in, and I had a job I hated. Everything was wrong in my life. And so those are ripe moments for a wake-up call in life. You know, if you haven't been paying attention enough so that you end up with a job you hate, a relationship you don't want to be in, a body you don't like, and you're addicted to a bunch of things, you're ripe for a sledgehammer blow from the universe. And I got it.
You step over a threshold, meaning you move from one world into another. Sometimes you're shoved from one world into the other.
I went out for a walk and I stepped on the ice on the road, and my feet shot out from under me, and I smacked my back of my head on the ground, frozen ground, and it knocked me out just enough. I wasn't completely unconscious, but I had a vision while I was semi-knocked out I could see down through all the layers of myself to this pure consciousness inside. And I could see how all the fat I had was organized around a whole bunch of feelings I didn't want to let myself feel, like sadness from childhood and a lot of old grief in my family and anger and things like that. And I realized that the fat was there to keep me from feeling those feelings. And so as I began to come back to normal consciousness, I made a vow that I was going to change my life so that I could live in that state of pure consciousness instead of having to have all of that armor around me. Once you make the decisions that Joseph Campbell is talking about really hearing the call and being willing to take on the challenges of that new awakened life, once you do that, you begin to feel a power that it's like nothing else I've ever experienced. And I think a lot of us are just plain old afraid of that.
People wake up to the fact that they're the hero of their own life when they get tired of being the victim of their own life. At the point that that you say enough, I don't want to listen to my parents anymore. I have had it with my boss. I'm really having problems perhaps with the sermon I'm being taught. You can either surrender to victimhood, and a lot of people do, or you can surrender to a fundamentalism. You can basically give your responsibility to someone else and say, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Or you can say, I have a choice here and I'm responsible. Now, what does it mean to be the hero of your own life? It means to be responsible for your own adventure.
And in every hero's journey, there's some death moment where some old has to go and some new has to stay.
You want to have new birth, new revelation, new insight into life as you grow as a human being. You will learn to keep dying.
The forest represents the darkness, the unknown, the edge of your world. And it takes the courage of a hero to go into that forest. The people in your community don't understand why you want to go into that forest. And in fact, they're pulling you back, asking you, why can't you be happy with what you have here? But there's this urge that exists within the hero to go and explore. For me, one of the most formative times, the first probably most formative time, was when I dropped out of law school. All of my friends at the time told me at least stay through the first year, and I couldn't make it through the first semester. I was literally nauseous at the idea of completing this. I burned my resume. I had no desire to live within the corporate world in any sense. And in the same 24-hour period of time, ended my relationship of 5 years and dropped out of law school. It was an incredibly gut-wrenching, soul-wrenching time. Moved back in with Mom. There were several months where I just laid in bed and slept and read, and it wasn't a pretty process. But the only thing I knew I wanted to do was to coach a Little League baseball team. The little bit of instinct that I had, the little bit of bliss I had in my life at that time was to work with these kids. And I had no idea what would come out of it. And then 3-6 months later, I had an idea that, wow, there's an amazing opportunity to serve families in sports. The internet was just getting going. This was 1998, and I had a vision of what I could do to serve these families and created a company that there's no way I could have imagined when I dropped out of law school. No possible way. But as it turns out, I started this business. We won the business plan competition at UCLA. We raised $5 million. I hired the CEO of Adidas to be our CEO, and we hired the law firm that I would have wanted to work for before I graduated from law school. So just this beautiful, sense of this is it. This is. Campbell talks about the fact that when we go on the hero's journey, there's a dragon we must slay. Now, a dragon is the most challenging, fierce creature that can ever be created in mythology.
Joe Campbell describes the dragon as being a beast covered with scales, and on every scale it says either thou shalt or thou shalt not.
I remember when I decided I wanted to do a full loop ramp, and I had this idea. I knew it was physically possible. I mean, You do it with Hot Wheels, you can do it with a skateboard, right? And so I presented the idea to my sponsor at the time, and I said, hey, I think I could do this. And they said, that sounds awesome, let's build a ramp. And I designed the ramp. You know, and all this was on paper, and it was my idea, and I'll never forget driving up and seeing it, and this wave of fear just crashed over me, like, oh my, are you serious? Like, I made a loop, I'm really gonna, like, and I'm the only one that's even volunteering to do it. And at that point, I felt like there was so much at stake to not do it. You know, because at the time, no one was building extravagant ramps. No one really had money to do that kind of thing. And there it was, and I was like, and I just had to sort of internalize and say, okay, you keep telling yourself this is possible, this is the time, we got to make this happen. And little by little, I figured it out, but I took some heavy hits that day. Actually, now we own one for our Hakcham tour that we can do on tour every single night. But that first time, you know, that was just frightening. But I had to really step back and go, okay, you can do this.
Fear is a very interesting thing. First of all, we need to realize that fear is an inherent part of the human experience. But it's not about getting rid of fear. Where's it going to go? There's nowhere for it to go. The issue is to have courage, to move forward in spite of the fear you feel.
The courage is not a lack of fear. The courage is dealing with your fear. Nobody would ever be described as courageous who didn't confront their own fear. That's not courage at all. It's just doing something that you find relatively unchallenging.
Courage is when you know what to do and you do it. And lack of courage is when you know what to do and you don't do it.
So Joseph Campbell talks about slaying dragons. And what do most of us do in our lives? Whether it's a difficult assignment at work, whether it's a difficult conversation we know we should have with a loved one, whether it's something we're resisting, we leave and run in the opposite direction.
The hero encounters these obstacles and flails at them. The way we think of time is as linear. I'm born, I'm going to go through these things, and I'm going to die. The hero's journey tells us no. You're going to go here, you're going to have this adventure, and you're going to come back. And guess what? You're going to be right back where you were. Now you're going to go over here and have this adventure, and you come back. You're going to go here, you're going to have this adventure, and you're going to come back. And guess what? You're going to be right back where you were. Now you're going to go over here and have this adventure, and you come back. And guess what? You're right here. What did you bring back?
What the hero brings back is a story. Gilgamesh, for example, the Gilgamesh epic. He went out and he looked for the plant of immortality. He went through all kinds of trials with the feminine, with the monster, and so on. But he finally swam to the bottom of the sea and got the plant of immortality. He came up on the shore and put it down. While he was bathing, the serpent came and got the plant of immortality. But he went home to Uruk anyway, and he had this story to tell. For Gilgamesh, there was no concrete, objective thing, widget to give to the community. No gold, no treasure, and so on. The story of getting the treasure is the treasure. And so, the giving of the story is the invitation for other people to make the same journey. That's why it's a circle. It never ends.
I love that idea that there's a circle and the circle needs to be closed. And the way to close the circle is to come back, return with something different than you started with, and to share that. And that to me is like a perfect hero's journey.
That's the ultimate end to the hero's journey. It's not slaying the dragon, it's not beating the bad guy. It's giving back the essence of that journey.